Mrs. Kirkpatrick, how did you communicate with your former husband about him dropping off your son and picking him up? Was that by phone or text?
Mostly by text.
Okay. And so you have a phone?
I have one, yes.
And he has one?
Yes.
Well, is there any reason why you didn't contact your former husband, since he had acquiesced to bringing your son to you for the weekend on Mother's Day? Is there any reason why you didn't contact him and said, I found this phone that I assume you bought for Titan? Titan?
Titan, Your Honor.
I'm not listed as a contact.
Right.
You know, is there any reason why you didn't do that?
Well, yeah.
What's the reason?
No, I don't know the reason. He never said.
No, what's the reason you didn't call him?
Oh,
Text
I told
him and say, I found a phone. I didn't know that Titan had a phone. I want to be listed as a contact. She wants to show me something that she's going to say explains why she took control of this phone. So I'd like to take a look at it.
Your Honor, may I add something quickly?
No. First, I want to look at this, and then I'll ask you questions.
Sorry.
Don't give me a whole bunch of stuff that's meaningless. I don't want to read stuff that's meaningless. What is this picture of?
That is a picture from Titan that he took a picture of himself, sending to his dad, stating that he still wasn't feeling well, that he wants to go to the doctor.
I see that. I see that. I still think that, yeah, can I delete Prime Video for space? If I don't, won't be able to play any more games because they're around. I can't play games. What is, I don't know what this is. It's nothing. Titan bedtime in 10 minutes. I'll be home soon. Sleep in your bed tonight. Well, so far, the only thing that would be troublesome to me for a kid, these things. Okay, so is it your son who's doing all this cursing, sir?
Unfortunately, it's a little side effect he picked up from public school.
Yeah, you know. He seems to be, well, first I'm going to show this to you. This is what his mother said she found on the phone.
Thank you. Yeah, that's something that I should have been probably told about. I didn't know. I had no idea that was on there.
Okay, and you have a girlfriend whose name is Holly?
Correct.
Okay, and I assume that there's a little bit of sometimes tension with Titan and Holly?
No, not at all.
Okay. There was some suggestion there about sleeping in the same bed with her.
My son?
Yeah, there's something about the bed isn't big enough for three.
Oh, because he still likes to crawl in sometimes into my bed, even though he has his own room and bed and everything. And I was like, Titan, you need to go sleep in your room. And I was trying to play around with him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So those things came off the phone.
Mm-hmm. That's disturbing. That is disturbing, Your Honor.
Yeah, it's disturbing. It would be disturbing to me as a parent. The realities of the situation is he is a single parent raising a 10-year-old full-time himself, and he wasn't swift enough and engaged enough to see that his son was starting to fool around on the internet in places where he shouldn't.
William Kirkpatrick is accusing his ex-wife, Barry Kirkpatrick, of modifying his phone without permission. Barry claims her actions were to protect their young son from adult content.
Okay. So those things came off the phone.
That's disturbing. That is disturbing, Your Honor.
Yeah, it's disturbing. It would be disturbing to me as a parent. And the reaction should be, as a parent, to call the other parent and say, this is what's going on with the phone. You may not know about it because I don't know quite how to say this to you without sounding harsh. He works and takes care of a 10-year-old full-time. You do nothing. Being a homemaker without children and without a husband, it means you take care of yourself. That's what you're telling me. So if you're trying to juggle taking care of a 10-year-old, trying to have a social life, and trying to work full-time, I assume that you're not paying any child support, Ms. Kirkpatrick. I assume that that's true.
It's true, Your Honor.
Then what you do is you pick up the phone and call the person who's been in charge of your son for 2.5 years and say, listen, this 10-year-old is cursing. This 10-year-old is cursing. It's on the phone. You've addressed it, but clearly not enough. And I found these videos, these smutty videos that he's involved with. Do you need a tissue?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm okay.
That's what you do. That's what you do as a parent. And you do have to have a certain amount of recognition of what the realities of a situation are. The realities of a situation is he is a single parent raising a 10-year-old full-time himself, and he wasn't swift enough and engaged enough to see that his son was starting to fool around on the internet in places where he shouldn't be. Your response isn't to destroy the phone. Your response should be, I'm taking the phone away, I'm going to give it to you and show you what I've done, not to disable the phone and put on a tracking system. Do you understand, Ms. Kirkpatrick? Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
Okay. That's my view. And I don't know what's going to happen when you have your hearing next month. But at this point, and at least for the past several years, his father has been in charge of him. And it doesn't appear to me, at least by the fact that he brought him to you when you wanted to see him over Mother's Day. In fact, buy him or get him another phone. It's something that you should have in the back of your head, that he's swift enough to get on the internet, even at age 10 or 11, and find places that can cause nothing but trouble. And apparently, based upon what I read, you're not home when you're working. He spends a lot of time by himself.
A few hours a day.
A few hours. Well, in a few hours, a lot of trouble can happen. Right. So be much more cautious. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of the phone, $174. Thank you.
Court is adjourned.
I'm very disappointed.
Well, I'm glad that I got something back.
There's a lot of information that was not brought up that played a big factor.
This has been something that's been going on for years and years.
And it breaks my heart.
She's always doing this, so at least something was done.
You know, when I said homemaker, like, I'm hoping for the day when my son can come back home.
She's been difficult for the last 10 years, so.
Will has been keeping him from me.
He's my everything. Yeah.
I want to have the 50% that I'm entitled to.
I would love for things to be amicable, but I don't see it happening.
I'll keep waiting for my day.
So I'm asking your opinion, because I know that the defendant was very upset. I mean, it was apparent to me that he was parenting this child, and she probably feels badly about it. I don't know what kind of situation she hopes to present to the court next month when she has a hearing. But if she's living in a garage with no running water or no plumbing with her boyfriend, that is certainly not a reasonable situation. She is unemployed and he's employed full-time. He probably would prefer being in a place with fewer rules. His father has some rules, but his father wasn't vigilant enough with the phone. I think there's such a good lesson there to be learned. Even for a kid that's 10, you know, they've grown up on the internet. Like you, you have 2 younger siblings. Did you grow up with a phone when you were 2 or 3?
No, I had a flip phone at age 14, 15, maybe.
Maybe, but grow up on the internet. I mean,
no, we had the one computer in the computer room in the house that the parents also used, so you never dabbled in anything non-kosher, you could say, well, on the family computer. Right. And the phone didn't have internet back then, but I know now my younger siblings can be on their phones in their rooms for hours. No one knows, talking to the friends.
Even the little ones, I mean, I see them negotiating their little iPads when they're 2. So
Court come to order, all rise.
Have a seat, please.
Good morning, Judge. We have case number 1025, Jones versus Fields.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Fields, I'm going to start with you in this case. You were planning a wedding.
Yes, ma'am.
On what date was the wedding?
Sunday, May 30th.
Did it take place?
Yes, ma'am.
Is this your husband?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you happy?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Both look very happy.
2 months tomorrow.
Well, keep counting them that way with a smile.
Yes, ma'am.
And you had a pretty good wedding day?
Amazing.
Yes,
Great. When you were planning the wedding, according to what I read in the complaint and your answer, you were looking for someone to do the makeup for your wedding.
Yes, ma'am.
And you did a search and you found someone who came recommended, and that was the plaintiff.
Yes.
And on what date did you make an appointment to see her?
Well, actually, before that, Your Honor, I had a phone consultation with her on Friday, April 23rd.
Okay. And you made an appointment to see her?
The first appointment was Sunday, 2 days later, the 25th of April.
Okay. And you went to her place of business? Was it a studio or her home?
A studio.
In the phone conversation that you had with her on the 23rd, did you get a quote for what her services would be in total?
Yes, ma'am. So the verbal quote was was for myself on site and up to 4 bridesmaids. I only needed 3.
And how much was that?
$675. And I do have a copy of that quote.
I'm going to get to that
Yes,
in a minute.
ma'am.
And after you left the studio, where did you go?
To have engagement photos done.
How long did that take?
The engagement photos? Forever. Yes, about 5 or 6 hours we were being photographed at multiple locations.
Okay, so it would be fair to say, Ms. Fields, you had your makeup done on a Sunday, which is not a regular work day,
Yeah.
and you had your makeup done on that Sunday in order to take your engagement photos. There's no equivocation there.
Okay.
When one takes engagement photos, I've been through enough weddings of my children and grandchildren to know that when you take engagement photos, you get your makeup done.
I wasn't planning to. I don't wear makeup typically.
Well, whether you plan to typically, it is too serendipitous that out of 365 days a year,
Yes, ma'am.
that the one day that you had your test makeup, you also had a very long photo shoot for your engagement party at multiple locations.
Yes.
I can't get that through my head that was...
I texted her and told her I was a few minutes late. She said it was fine. I got there. She was waiting for me.
Were you wearing the clothes you were going to wear at the engagement photos?
No, ma'am.
Then you had to go home to get and change in order to get the engagement photos?
Yes, ma'am.
What?
No, she had the clothes on. She left my studio, went straight to the
No,
site.
ma'am. I
What
have
was she
pictures of
wearing?
My engagement.
So here is the photo that she
I'd
had
like
on.
to
It was, yeah.
I'd like to see it.
And she also made it her profile picture.
Okay, just a second. Miss Fields,
Yes, ma'am.
this is your husband.
Yes.
Do you remember what color shirt you were wearing for the engagement photos?
Yes, ma'am. It was. I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am. It was red.
It was red.
Yes, ma'am.
And your wife was wearing polka dot dress with big red rose?
Yes, ma'am.
So those were the engagement photo. That's what you were wearing. Well, you were wearing that to the studio.
No, ma'am. I left church. I came to her in a black one-piece unit, similar to what she's wearing, and that's the picture I sent her from the engagement photos.
Okay, but
That's
this
not
is
what I
not
was wearing.
This is not what she was wearing. She
No.
said when she came to your
That
studio.
is what she was
No,
wearing.
I have a picture.
Okay. Can I see your photo,
Yes,
please?
ma'am. Unfortunately, it's in my phone because I didn't know it would be privy, but this is when I left her studio. That was in her parking lot.
Okay, great. Let me just take a quick look.
No road.
Oh my goodness, those some lashes.
Yeah.
Gotta get some of those.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, I'm reading this initial retainer, and Sarah's viewing the contract, because I'm going to look at it in a second. It says that when you left, you were supposed to give her a retainer of $300 if you signed the contract.
Yes.
Did you give it to her?
It was verbally agreed, and I have...
No, that's not what I asked.
No, I did not.
Did you give her any money?
Yes.
How much money did you give her?
$30 cash for a tip.
As a tip?
Yes.
So other than the tip, you didn't give her any money?
No, ma'am.
But you did sign the contract?
Yes, ma'am.
Did the contract provide that at the time of signing of the contract, you were supposed to give her the deposit?
No, ma'am.
It just says May 21st was the entire amount was due.
There's no deposit date.
That's correct.
Okay, well, it's a little confusing. It says that the deposit must be paid in advance. Well, advance can be a day in advance or 2 days in advance, but there is, according to the contract, a $300 deposit that's due in advance.
Yes, ma'am.
That's non-refundable.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you pay her the $300?
No, ma'am.
Now tell me why not.
We had a verbal agreement and later confirmed by her in writing that May 7th was when the deposit would be due.
Okay. Did you ask her, because you confirmed and you signed this contract?
Yes, ma'am.
This is my question. She does your makeup.
Yes.
She shows you the contract.
Yes.
You say that's fine because we've already agreed upon the price.
Yes, ma'am.
She needs a deposit to hold the date.
Yes.
I want you to understand how that usually works.
Yes, ma'am.
If you're going to hold the date, you say, I'm going to sign the contract and give you a deposit. Same day, that's what happens. When you took a wedding venue, that's what usually happens when you take a wedding venue.
Yes, ma'am.
You go, you sign the contract. On the day you sign the contract, you give them the deposit.
Yes.
I assume that's what you did.
The wedding venue was paid in full the day we visited.
Okay, but it was paid well before.
Yes.
But usually you give someone a deposit,
Yes.
and they hold the date because this is a service business, it's a service venue, it's a service makeup artist. So the 7th of May, the delay in giving her a deposit for sure had to be because you asked for it.
She never gave me a date for the deposit to do, so I asked if I could just pay it on the 7th.
Well, because you seem like an intelligent woman.
Yes, ma'am.
The contract says that the deposit must be paid in advance.
Yes.
By the way, you should change the contract by saying the deposit must be paid at the time of signing the contract.
After this, I have. Yes, ma'am.
You did?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you understand that there was...
A little shaky, a little
It was a
recording.
little shaky.
Yes.
Because certainly she wasn't doing your makeup, even yours, for a tip.
I agree.
So at minimum, you know that you owe her the deposit. At minimum.
Yes.
So ultimately, you breached the contract. And you breached the contract by canceling her service.
She canceled.
Well, I read your answer. You tell me in your words what you want me to believe happened.
So when we spoke over the phone and in studio, we did verbally agree that I would pay the deposit May 7th. She didn't have a definite date that she wanted it paid. But
No. You understand what I mean.
Okay.
Miss Fields, you're supposed to pay the deposit the day you sign the contract.
She didn't issue me an invoice till May 1st.
It's not an invoice. Uncross your arms. Don't get angry. So far, it looks like you're ahead of the game, right?
Yeah.
You should have paid the deposit at the time you signed the contract. You knew that it said $300 deposit. The $375 was paid on the day of the wedding. You knew that. And you knew that, sir, because you came with her, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have any money with you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, if you had money with you, why didn't you give her a deposit? When you signed the contract, then all you had to do was do $375 on the date of the wedding. Finished. You used the makeup. You went and did your engagement pictures using her service and didn't pay her anything. So at minimum, you owed her for her service.
Yes, ma'am.
Which is 1 hour, and that charge was minimally $300 because she was going to do you and up to 4 bridesmaids for another $375. I mean, if you think about it, because that's what the package included. Okay, so now why don't you tell me the story that you're going to tell me about how she breached the contract?
So May 3rd, I was at work and I received a phone call from Danielle. Out of the blue, uninitiated by myself, and she told me that she had other business opportunities for the same day as my wedding that were willing to pay before our agreed upon deposit due date, and that she wanted me to pay her in advance of our agreement. And I told her that I didn't have it. To be honest, I got paid that Friday. And
He said he had money.
I didn't ask him for it. He wasn't my husband
Just a
yet.
second. Now you can sit down. He said he had money.
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Perfect.
You're hollering to the top of your lungs, and I'm like, hold up, I didn't call you for all this. So I just became quiet. I let her vent. And
She was a stressed bridezilla.
Exactly.
Is what you are describing.
Exactly. And I just let her vent, because sometimes you just need to get it out.
Makeup artist Danielle Jones claims Erica Fields refused to pay for services. Erica is countersuing Danielle for making false accusations.
So she wanted her money before.
Yes, On the 3rd.
And you said to her?
I will pay you on Friday based on our agreement, the 7th. And she decided to cancel because...
No, not she decided. What did she say to you?
She said that she needed me to pay her what I was going to do. And I said, I'm at work and I can't really have this conversation right now. I said, if you feel the need to take the other business because they can pay early, go ahead and take the other business. She canceled the contract and sent me the
canceled the contract. What did she say?
She did say that she was going to bill me for the trial service for $80. And I received that invoice.
Okay. Now, why did you call her on the 3rd?
Because it had gotten to that point, and I did get a phone call from one of my facial clients that wanted to book that Sunday. So either I was going to put them on the Saturday or I was going to put them on the Sunday, but I wanted to make sure that she was paying me my money on that Friday.
Okay. Because that's what you would agree to accept the deposit on Friday.
Yeah, I did. I did agree to that because she said she had just paid the venue all this money. So I did, and we had just came out of COVID. So, I mean, I have a soft heart.
Okay, so you had agreed on the 7th, you called her on the 3rd, and you said, I want to make sure you're going to do this booking because I have another opportunity.
I couldn't even get the sentence out before she went AWOL. I couldn't even finish the sentence. So she went...
When you say she went AWOL, that's a conclusion. I want you to tell me what she said.
How dare you call me on the 3rd? This is 27 days before my wedding asking me for money, is what she said.
And what did you say?
I couldn't say nothing because she kept going, and I just became quiet because you're hollering to the top of your lungs, and I'm like, hold up, I didn't call you for all this. So I just became quiet. I let her vent. She went and vented for about 10 minutes about other vendors and other things that were going on that had nothing to do with me. And
she was a stressed bridezilla.
Exactly.
Is what you are describing.
Exactly. And I just let her vent, because sometimes you just need to get it out. So I let her vent, didn't say nothing. And at that point, I was sitting here in my mind, I'm like, this lady probably is not gonna pay me my money. And in the conversation, she said, just cancel my contract. Just cancel it. I'll find somebody else. Just cancel it. I said, if that's what you want, I will surely do that. Yes. I said, okay, well, I will still be billing you for the services that I did do, which is the $80. I did say that. And she said, okay, fine, and hung up in my face.
Okay. Did you bill her for the $80?
I did.
Did she pay you?
Nope. She looked at all the invoices.
Okay, just a second. Now, Ms. Fields, we're going to come back to you.
Yes, ma'am. I was at work.
Just a second. I don't give a rat's behind where you were and how stressed you were. I actually believe her.
I didn't go off on her.
Just a second. I actually believe her.
Okay.
Yeah, you know why I believe her?
Yes, ma'am.
It all sounds very reasonable. I mean, I'm visualizing this. You signed a contract, you didn't pay. He had the money, and he was with you in his red shirt and jacket, but he didn't pay the deposit. You agreed, which is perfectly fine, that you would pay her on the 7th.
Yes, ma'am.
So you saw her on April 25th, and you said, I will pay you on May 7th.
Yes, ma'am.
Or before. I mean,
Yes.
you certainly could pay her before. You didn't. She gets a call from another one of her clients that says, I'd like to book you on the same day as the wedding, which was May 30th. And whatever the conversation was, she said to you, okay, we're probably not a good fit. She was prepared to cancel the contract which you had signed.
Yes.
She said, just pay me my $80 for the makeup, which is a perfectly reasonable thing to do.
Yes, ma'am.
$80. You said fine and hung up. You didn't send her the $80.
No.
You did, in fact, report her to the Better Business Bureau.
And others.
Why?
Because she continued to call me at work.
To ask for her $80.
It goes deeper than that, Your Honor.
Well, how much deeper? This is a lady you never met.
Exactly.
This is a lady you never met. So how could it go deeper? It's not as if you shared a boyfriend, you shared an ex-somebody.
We share an acquaintance that I didn't know that we shared.
What difference does that make?
The acquaintance has been kind of sort of after me, and I have now taken matters up with that acquaintance, and this is the person whose makeup she did on the 30th.
Okay, so she told the story that you had a service, you didn't pay for it.
Yes, ma'am.
Because she sent you an invoice, and what you should have done was pay the invoice.
Okay.
Okay? And you got the invoice, there's no question about that, and
Yes,
you
ma'am, I
ignored
did.
it. Okay. And what I care about is why you didn't pay the $80. Why should she work for you for nothing? You take the benefit of her expertise and use it to take all of your engagement photos,
Yes,
which
ma'am.
was pre-planned, and then not use her as per the contract. I don't understand why you think you don't owe her at least what you agreed to, which was the $80.
I never agreed to the $80. That's not true.
Well, did you think she was going to do your makeup for free?
I did not, Your Honor. And I agree with you.
If she hadn't agreed to the $80, you would have been stuck with a contract.
Yes, ma'am. I understand.
Which is a lot more.
I understand now.
Do you?
I do now. I mean, when you explain it, yes, ma'am, I do. I apologize, I do.
Okay. Because her lawsuit now is much more than just the $80.
Yes, ma'am.
Because she says that you maliciously filed reports to the regulatory institutions that regulate her business.
Yes.
Now I would like to see, please, the report that she filed and what happened.
Okay.
Because there are two parts.
One for the BBB. That's this one. It's her response at the bottom and mine at the top. And it's still open because we're here. And then the second one is with TDLR, which is Texas Department of License and Registration, which is where I host my esthetician license under.
Can I see those?
But she opened an investigation with that.
Thank you. Well, I'm reading your complaint.
Yes, ma'am.
And your complaint is a little disingenuous because what you say here is she canceled the contract and she sent me a bill for an $80 trial run.
Yes.
She chose to dishonor her signed contract and cancel, which I don't think happened at all. I think that she agreed to cancel the contract. Otherwise, you would be responsible for the whole contract. You would be responsible. There's no question. You have a signed deal.
I didn't ask her to cancel, Your Honor.
No. I know what the conversation was. I actually do know, like I could hear it, like there was stress. And if you had said to her, I'm absolutely going to pay you on the 7th, that's 3 more days.
I did.
4 more days. No way.
She asked me to pay her that day. She said she needed me to pay her that day because the other person was willing to pay that day. And I told her I couldn't until the 7th. And she said, then I'm going to have to cancel your contract because I'm asking you to pay her.
Is that what happened?
Absolutely not. It's a facial client. I could have easily moved them to a Saturday. Your wedding, that's an all-day service.
Yeah.
Your
Didn't
Honor,
happen that way.
The makeup
Miss
she
Fields,
did was
it didn't
for
happen
a
that way.
bridal shower for the girl we know together.
Yeah.
It was not for a facial.
This was an unnecessary overkill. It's like if you left your spoon out without rinsing it off, and instead of saying, listen, I'm not your maid, clean up after yourself. She packs your bags and says goodbye. That would be an overkill, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Makeup artist Danielle Jones is accusing Erica Fields of refusing to pay for services and reporting her to regulatory agencies.
This was an unnecessary, I'm an unhappy lady, and I'm going to take my aggressions out on somebody who's trying to make a living. This was unnecessary. What kind of work do you do?
I'm an accountant and a business analyst, and she continued to call me, which is the same date that I filed that, because she kept calling me.
She wanted her $80. Well, at first she wanted her $80. She sent you a bill for $80. You didn't pay the bill for $80. Instead, you called the Better Business Bureau. I don't understand what you were thinking.
I was upset.
Doesn't sound like you're losing, right?
Oh, no.
I was upset, honestly.
I don't care if you were upset or not. You should have sent her the $80. She worked on you for nothing. She made you look gorgeous for your engagement pictures, which you loved, for nothing. So at least send her the $80 when she sent a bill. If you would answered her bill immediately by sending the $80, she wouldn't have kept calling you.
I understand.
You just decided to ignore her.
Well, she got really unprofessional.
No. Not when she sent you the bill for $80. If you had immediately sent her the $80, she would not have called you again and again for her money.
Yes, ma'am.
How did you expect her to contact you for the money?
In writing. I asked her to contact me in writing.
Why should she contact you in writing? And then she's going to charge?
Because of things that she's saying that I verbally said are not true. So that's why I asked for it in writing.
What difference did it make? For $80, it would have been over. Aren't you understanding that? You should learn that in your married life with him. Don't sweat the small stuff. For $80, which was a fair amount of money to cancel a deal, because after all, once you sign that contract, Ms. Fields, you are obligated to pay her $675.
Okay.
Whether you use her or don't use her, that's your obligation. She says, you know what, I don't want to deal with this person. Just pay me for the day that you came in that I spent with you, which is a reasonable amount of money, very. $80 to do your makeup for an hour. She took a lot of time. It wasn't just that she was going to do your makeup one and done. She was trying to impress you that she could do a beautiful job so you would retain her for the whole wedding. I mean, you know, it's very, very easy. So this first thing that I'm reading was overkill. Now I'm looking at the next one. This complaint intake monitoring system, CIMS?
That's what they left at my door when they finished their investigation.
Just a second. Well, they finished the investigation. It was received on May 18th. And May 18th was 2 weeks before your wedding. So 2 weeks before your wedding, you must have been more stressed than you were.
She continued to call and text me.
Why didn't you just send her the money? It became a matter of principle with you.
It did, honestly.
Yeah. Well, you had nothing else to do. You couldn't win against anybody else. Why did you even, in the midst of planning your first wedding, how old are you?
41.
41. In the middle of planning your first wedding, you're trying to put this woman out of business whose makeup you loved.
Well,
whose makeup you loved. It's not that she did a terrible job.
She got involved at work. I got in trouble at work for things that she did.
It doesn't matter to me. The problem, as Shakespeare said, lies with you. You look to get out of paying for a service. And I don't think you look to get out of paying for the service because of the money.
No, it wasn't.
I think it was because you were really stressed with everything else.
Agreed.
And you took it out on her. And I think that that's unreasonable. I do. I think that that's very unreasonable. And minimally, since you both agreed to modify the contract to $80, that's minimally what the plaintiff would get. Yes. She's suing for a lot more than that, and she's suing for reporting her to the Better Business Bureau, which is going to give her a negative rating, to the place that licenses her, which is now on file, all because you were in a snit over the fact that you were stressed over planning a wedding. Do you understand, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
It's like if you left your spoon out without rinsing it off in your house, and instead of saying, listen, I'm not your maid, clean up after yourself, which sounds familiar to me, has been said it a couple of times myself. She packs your bags and says goodbye. That would be an overkill, right?
Yes, ma'am.
This was overkill. Plaintiff is suing in the amount of $5,000, which I think is a bit of an overkill myself. Are you still working?
Currently, yes.
Okay, great. So she owes you $80 for the makeup, and she owes you $2,000 for making trouble for you that she had no right to do.
Okay.
And that was malicious. That's the judgment of the court. $2,080. Judgment for the plaintiff. You count the claims dismissed. We're done. Thank you. Court adjourned.
I'm elated, and I'm thankful that the judge saw between all the lies.
She was just unprofessional and wanted money earlier than agreed upon.
That she was trying to get me something for nothing.
I absolutely do now that the judge has explained that, and the way she explained it made sense, and I wish I had just given her the $80 and no tip.
She could have just paid it and it would have been done.
I'm glad it's over.
So usually when two people want to modify a contract, it usually has to be done in the same form as the original contract was. So in this case, it was in writing. So usually any modification would also need to be in writing.
That's true.
So why did you let them off the hook?
Well, it seemed to me that the plaintiff was being very reasonable. And she said, all right, maybe this is not going to work. Just pay me for the hour that we spent together. And that would be by quantum merit. Pay for just the work that was done and not for anything in the future, which seemed totally reasonable. And I actually believe that the defendant said, okay, and hung up. The woman sent her a bill right away. She didn't pay it and had no intention of paying it. The woman agreed to say, we're done, just pay me the $80 that I usually...
Year-old Jennifer Santiago for medical bills after being hit by a car.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Judge Judy takes her seat behind the bench.
Case number 2020, Hildreth Mahasani versus Santiago.
Thank you. Miss Hildreth.
Yes.
Pronounce your last name for me, sir.
Mahasani.
Mahasani.
Yes.
You two were crossing the street in San Diego?
In Carlsbad Village.
Is that in San Diego?
It is. It's a suburb of San Diego.
Is that where you live?
Correct, in Carlsbad.
And you were hit by Miss Santiago, who was driving her mother's car?
Correct.
Miss Santiago acknowledges that she hit you. And you were seriously injured. You've had shoulder surgery. You were both injured.
Correct.
When did this happen?
This happened on Friday, September 4th, 2020.
I just have a couple of preliminary questions before I get into the facts of it.
Sure.
I assume that since this accident happened in 2020, that you tried to sue either the defendant and or her mother as the car's owner.
Well, we would have done so, but the driver was uninsured.
That's the question. You would have done so,
Yes.
except the mother had no insurance.
It is my knowledge that the mother had insurance, but that and which I have the evidence, that her daughter was excluded from the policy.
The policy, and therefore the insurance company disclaimed.
Correct.
I'd like to see that.
Absolutely.
That's why your mother's not here.
No, Your Honor.
Okay, that's why your mother's not here, Miss Santiago.
Without her knowing.
Miss Santiago, that's why your mother's not here.
No.
Well.
Judy glares at Jennifer.
Were you excluded from the insurance policy? That's either a yes or a no.
Yes.
Then you shouldn't have been driving the car.
Yeah, I know.
Just a second. Then you shouldn't have been driving the car.
I took the car.
I don't want to hear some pat answer from you. Do you understand? That's why your mother's not here.
Well, it was
I didn't ask you a question. I didn't
and I took
ask
the car
you. Do you
without
understand?
permission.
They don't listen to you when I'm speaking. When I ask you a question, you'll answer me. I don't want to hear some pat answer. I want to hear a lot of I'm sorries. I want to hear a lot of I'm sorries.
Why would I say I'm sorry if they didn't pay attention when they were crossing?
You weren't supposed to be behind the wheel of a car.
Well, I was paying attention.
You weren't supposed to be behind the wheel of a car.
But why they didn't pay attention?
I'm not speaking to you. I just told you why. Why should I say I'm sorry? Hey, be quiet. Why should I say I'm sorry if they weren't paying attention? Because you weren't supposed to be behind the wheel of a car. If you weren't behind the wheel of a car, whether they were paying attention or not would be irrelevant. You weren't supposed to be driving. She thinks you have a big mouth. You don't have a bigger mouth than me, madam. I guarantee you, the last person who drove yesterday that wasn't supposed to drive yesterday because they were drunk, killed six.
Drunk.
Nobody's listening to you. When I'm speaking, nobody's listening to you. Killed 6 people. Last person who drove that wasn't supposed to be behind the wheel of a car killed 6 people. You were not supposed. Hey, drunk. I'm speaking. You were not supposed to be behind the wheel of a car. Don't you understand that?
I understand.
Are you stupid? You were not supposed to be behind the wheel of a car. You were an excluded driver, and you were an excluded driver for a reason.
Not only that, Your Honor.
Just a second. Don't speak. Now I'm going to read and calm myself down. I don't like my blood pressure to get too high. I just don't like stupid.
Whitney and Sarah smirk. Judy consults a document.
Our investigation, which is after you notified the insurance company, determined that the driver of the insured's car, Jennifer Ramirez, was not covered by the policy. That's what you told me.
Correct.
I don't understand this. You were walking, correct?
Correct. Both.
What is this? Your driving privileges will be suspended on November 21st. What is that?
I think there was a misunderstanding that we were actually driving a vehicle. Yeah. And when I called the DMV and I explained that, no, we're actually pedestrians, then they said, oh, I'm sorry, disregard that.
Yeah.
Stupid.
And
do you have a letter from them indicating that this is wrong?
They just told me that we can disregard it, and they just corrected it. That's all they did.
And it was stopped because she was also unlicensed?
Just a second. I'm not there yet.
Okay.
I'm not there with big mouth. Okay, this happened on September 4th, 2020. What time of the day?
It was in the evening.
What time?
Was about 8 p.m.
It was, around 8 o'clock.
Light or dark outside?
Dark.
Is that a fair and accurate representation of the intersection where this happened?
It is, Your Honor.
Ms. Santiago, is that a fair and accurate representation of the intersection where this happened?
Yes.
So at the intersection where this happened, there were lines across the highway indicating pedestrian walkway.
Correct.
And there were 2 signs indicating pedestrian walkway.
There were 3 signs. One in the center median and 1 on each side.
On September 4th, Ms. Santiago, this requires a yes or a no answer from you. On September the 4th, 2020, did you have a valid driver's license?
Caption coming up.
What happened when she hit? Don't! Hey! Don't speak. Hey, listen, for someone who can't take and pass a driver's test 3 times, at least I would keep my mouth shut.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Lisa, Reza, and Jennifer.
Lisa Hildreth and Reza Mahasani claim 20-year-old Jennifer Santiago struck them in a crosswalk while she was driving without a license. Jennifer says they were not paying attention and walked into oncoming traffic.
Now, on September 4th, Ms. Santiago, this requires a yes or a no answer from you. On September the 4th, 2020, did you have a valid driver's license?
I didn't, Your Honor.
I said it's either a yes or a no. Did you have a valid driver's license?
No.
Did you ever have a valid driver's license?
No.
Do you have a valid driver's license today?
No, Your Honor, because they...
That's a no. What's your name?
Vanessa.
What?
Giles.
Stand up.
Vanessa rises.
Did you come with her today?
Yes.
How did you get here?
I drove. My license.
Just a second. You drove?
Yes.
In whose car?
My car.
What kind of car is it?
Kia.
Did you ever drive with Miss Santiago?
Yes.
When? Did you ever drive in a car where she was the driver and you were the passenger?
Yes.
When?
Yeah. September 4th, 2020. 2 years ago.
Other than September 4th, 2020, did you ever drive with Miss Santiago where you were the passenger?
Yes.
When?
September 4th.
I said other than September 4th.
No.
Other than September 4th.
Other than that, no.
On September 4th at 7 p.m., 7 p.m., where were you?
We were at the beach. Carlsbad Beach.
You were at the beach. Who else was at the beach?
Santiago and another friend. He's a minor. He's 16.
There were 3 of you at the beach. Anybody else that you knew at the beach?
No.
How long had you been at the beach?
Like for an hour.
So you got there at 6 o'clock in the evening?
We got there at 7. We were going back home at 8.
So you got to the beach at 7. What did you do at the beach at 7 o'clock?
We were just sitting there, eating, relaxing, having a good time, as teenagers that we were.
Now, did Miss Santiago pick you up or did you meet at her house? Just think, take a breath. Did you meet at her house or did Miss Santiago pick you up?
She picked me up.
How far do you live from her?
2 minutes away.
And what about the 16-year-old minor?
3 minutes away.
Did she pick up the 16-year-old minor?
Yes.
How old was Miss Santiago in September of 2020?
18.
Are you a good friend of hers?
Yes, I am.
You knew she didn't have a driver's license?
Yes.
Did you know why she didn't have a driver's license?
She was still studying for a test.
Had she taken the test before?
Yes,
she had taken the test before. Yes. Do you remember how many times?
Yes.
How many times did she take the test?
2 times.
And the 2 times she took the test, she failed it?
Yes, she did.
Okay. So now she's driving without a license because she's failed her driving test twice at the time of this. So she's studying to pass it maybe for the 3rd time, right?
Yes.
And now we have 2 years later, she still doesn't have a driver's license.
Yes.
Do you know why?
No.
Well, you're her good friend. Didn't you ask her? Well, it's 2 years later. Did you ever pass your driving test?
She hasn't yet.
Sit.
Vanessa sits.
Now tell me what happened at 8 o'clock on the 4th of September, 2020.
I have pictures if you like, and would it be okay to approach the screen to show you better?
No, it's not necessary. You were crossing the street.
Correct.
In a crosswalk, she hit you.
Correct. We were.
That's what crossing happened. The street in a crosswalk, and she hit you.
Yeah. So we had come to the crosswalk sign on the left side of the photo. We pressed the button. It illuminated the flashing lights to indicate that it was okay to cross. We looked to the left. Those 2 cars were already parked. We proceeded to the middle, and noticed that the car in the furthest lane from us, that car was already parked. So we proceeded, and we were hit.
What happened when she hit? Don't, hey, don't speak. Hey, listen, for someone who can't take and pass a driver's test 3 times, at least I would keep my mouth shut until I look at you for an answer. Do you understand?
Yes.
And it was estimated by the officer that we...
No. She hit you in a crosswalk. That's a crosswalk. This young lady knew I'm not... Did you hear me? I'm not speaking to you.
Judy glares at Jennifer.
You don't understand this was a really bad day for this kind of case to come into court. You do understand that?
Yes.
Okay, good. And you know why this is a very bad day for your case to come into court?
No.
Then you don't read the newspapers. I suggest if you read the newspaper, maybe you would be able to pass your driving test. Because either you failed the written portion or you failed the driving portion, one or the other. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good. Now we understand each other. Now you're almost at I'm sorry. You're almost at I'm sorry. When the defendant's car struck you, where did you land?
I have photos to show.
I'd like to see it.
It kind of shows on the second photo there.
Lisa hands photos to Kevin, who brings them to Judy.
Oh, you hit her windshield. Who hit her windshield?
We
Is that
both
you?
did,
Both.
Your Honor. And the hood.
That's not true. I only saw that her husband, that he hit the shield. It wasn't her.
What an idiot. Kevin, I would like you to show Miss Santiago that photograph, and this one.
Kevin brings the photos to Jennifer, then shows them to her.
Can I see the police report, please?
Sure.
Lisa produces a document, then hands it to Kevin. He collects the photos from Jennifer, then brings them and the document to Judy.
I'd also like you to show her these. I just want her to take a look at them.
He brings the document to Jennifer.
To know what happens when you act irresponsibly and you do things that you're not supposed to do, like take a car and drive it when you have no license, when you failed your driving test twice.
Jennifer looks at the document. Caption coming up.
The yellow warning lights next to the crosswalk were flashing.
They were not.
Witness 1 observed plaintiff 1 driving northbound towards the crosswalk at a fast speed. She drove through. I'm speaking, not you.
I was not.
I'm speaking, not you.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Lisa, Reza, and Jennifer.
Lisa Hildreth and Reza Mahasani are accusing 20-year-old Jennifer Santiago of hitting them in a crosswalk while she was driving without a license.
Okay, your last name is?
Giles?
You spoke to the police that day.
Yes, I did.
I don't know what you're doing here as a witness. She stated she did not see what happened. That's what it says here.
Yes.
Just a second. That's what it says here. Uncross your arms. Now you can sit down. Gillis stated she did not see what happened. However, she identified Ms. Santiago as the driver. And then there was a witness. Witness 1 stated she was riding as a passenger in a vehicle driving northbound on the 3100 block of Carlsbad Boulevard. The 2 plaintiffs were crossing the road in a marked crosswalk on the south side of the intersection of Carlsbad Boulevard and Oak Avenue. The 2 were crossing from the west side of the street to the east side of the street. The yellow warning lights next to the crosswalk were flashing.
They were not.
Witness 1 observed plaintiff 1 driving northbound towards the crosswalk at a fast speed. She drove through. I'm speaking, not you.
I was not.
I'm speaking, not you. I'm reading from a statement in the police report from a witness who stopped when this accident happened that you don't know, neither do you. Okay, so now we have a witness who neither one of you know, who said the yellow lights were flashing. Even if they weren't, there's a crosswalk and there are signs that said pedestrian. But this witness says the lights were flashing. Then the officer who did a blood test there for alcohol states as follows. During the investigation, P1, that would be you, displayed objective symptoms of intoxication. I noticed her eyes were slightly red and watery. Her speech was very quiet. I determined P1 was under the influence of cannabis.
That's not true, Your Honor.
Just a second. Do you have any supplementary police reports?
The only other thing that I have from the officer is an email that he...
No. Okay. An email to whom?
An email from the police officer to us.
I'd like to see it.
Sure.
Lisa produces a document, then hands it to Kevin. He brings it to Judy.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
She dons her glasses, then reviews the document.
Okay, so what you said to the police officer was, and the police officer responded to you, that the report came back negative.
Correct.
And he said, I'm not changing it. Therefore, it's not a criminal matter. You have to sue her civilly.
Correct.
Because clearly the accident was her fault.
Correct.
Were you taken to the hospital that day?
We both were.
And you were taken to jail?
Yeah.
When was the last time you took a driving test? Month and year?
I haven't taken no driving test.
When was the last time you took a driving test, madam? You failed twice. So I want to know when the last time was that you took a driving test.
I can't remember. It was a long time ago.
Did you take a driving test in the year 2021?
Yeah, I did.
Did you pass that driving test?
No.
Was that your third or fourth driving test?
That was the second.
No, you took two, according to your friend, before 2020.
I know.
So I asked you, in 2021, did you take it? You said yes, you didn't pass it. And I asked you, was that the third or the fourth test that you had?
That was my second.
No. I don't know how much more that a court system can do, but to say to people who don't have driver's licenses, especially in your case where you tried to get a license but failed to pass on at least 2 occasions before this incident, which means that you were a risk to be on the road because you couldn't pass a driving test twice before this incident. Now, you want to tell me whether you, and this requires a short answer, not one of your long ones, did you have your mother's permission to take the car that day to pick her up and go to the beach?
No.
Have you ever had your mother's permission to take the car and go anywhere?
No.
So in effect, if you had no license and you didn't ask for permission, then you stole the car.
No.
What do you mean no? You didn't have permission of the owner to take the car. You weren't a licensed driver. Therefore, there was no insurance. Well, let's go back. Did you ever ask your mother to use the car?
No, not at all.
And what happened after you had this accident in your mother's car and after you got out of jail? What happened between you and your mother?
Well, she was sad because I was in jail, and well, she was also mad because, like, why would I take the car without her permission?
Why did you take the car without her permission?
Well, I honestly didn't thought that this would happen.
Nobody thinks that an accident is going to happen. I don't think you intentionally hit these 2 people.
No.
I don't think you intentionally hit these 2 people. Are you ready to say I'm very sorry yet?
Yeah, I told them we have talked before, I told them that I was sorry, and I'm telling them again that I'm sorry.
Good. That's better. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $10,000. We're finished.
This court is adjourned.
Outside the courtroom, Reza and Lisa, then Jennifer.
Well, I'm really pleased with the judge's decision.
I didn't see anything until the guy hit the windshield.
We have a young child, so we understand that the driver was young and mistakes happen.
I started screaming and I was scared.
For about 3 hours in the hospital, I didn't know if she was gonna live or die, basically.
I was so scared, like I just stayed there, I was in shock.
It's been rough.
I told them that I was sorry that the accident happened.
I had like internal bleeding in my arm. I have loss of range of motion in my hand.
Well, I didn't even went to see them because I was so scared.
It was the unluckiest day and the luckiest day of our life. So we're here and we're grateful for that.
I was super scared, like I was like, I killed them, like I was crying in jail.
We both have to deal with physical injuries, but like Lisa said, it was the unluckiest and luckiest moment of our life, so we're grateful that we're here.
Sarah and Judy.
Being pretty close to 18 myself.
For the costs of a French bulldog.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin approaches Judge Judy.
Hello, Judge. Case 2120, Jones versus Caldwell.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Judy turns to Jasmine.
Miss Jones, you and the defendant were in a romantic relationship that started about a year ago, more than a year ago. And then you decided to do one of the most foolish things that people do when they sort of fall in love, sometimes temporarily. You decided to buy a dog together. According to you, the relationship went south, and now we have this adorable dog that you want back. You say the dog is really yours. You were the one who was its primary caretaker. You paid for a vet bill. Mr. Caldwell said that's not the case. The dog was always supposed to be his. He purchased it. And it's your argument that if Mr. Caldwell is allowed to keep the dog, that you be reimbursed for the vet bills that you paid.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did you and Mr. Caldwell live together?
Yes.
From when to when?
From February 1st of this year to September 3rd.
And in what month did you decide to get the dog's name is Scrappy?
Yes.
Scrappy.
We got Scrappy January 18th.
So before you moved in together?
Yes.
Where were you living?
I was going back and forth from my mom's house to Joshua's. I already had a key in January. I was staying there.
Okay, but you were living with your mother.
Yes.
In January.
Yes.
And who was the breeder of this dog? Did you buy the dog from the breeder or from?
From the breeder, Andrew.
Now, Andrew was sitting over there on the defendant's side, so I assume that Andrew was a friend of your boyfriend's.
Yes.
Stand up, Andrew.
Frederick holds Scrappy.
I have a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
That's Scrappy.
Yes.
Scrappy is about 8 months old?
He just hit a year about 2-3 weeks ago.
Oh, so still a puppy.
Yes.
Looks very healthy. When Scrappy was purchased, was the amount paid for him the same as was paid for the other dogs in Scrappy's litter?
No.
How many puppies were in the litter?
5.
Did you charge Mr. Caldwell or Miss Jones for Scrappy?
Mr. Caldwell.
How much did you charge him?
$3,000, Your Honor.
Who paid you?
Joshua.
Mr. Caldwell, did he pay by check or cash?
Cash and Zelle payments.
Did you ever see Miss Jones in the purchasing process?
Yes, I seen her.
Tell me about it.
At the time when they came to pick up the dog, she was his girlfriend, but there was no connection with me.
Was that the first time you had met her?
I've seen her around because we would work at the gym together. We're both personal trainers, so I would see her around the gym sometimes.
Had you discussed with your friend Joshua?
Yes.
While you were working with him in your personal training at the gym, had you discussed with him getting a dog?
Yes.
When?
I can't recall the exact date, but I know that he had seen that I had bought my dog and that I was getting into the business. So he contacted me early in, say, 2020, stating that, hey, I want to eventually, when you have a litter, get one of your dogs from you.
Do you remember what month that was in?
I'd say, well, Scrap was born October 2021. So around then, maybe a couple months before when I let him know that the female was pregnant. So maybe around July, August.
Okay, of 2021.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so that was well before the two of you lived together.
Yes.
Did you ever hear from Miss Jones? Did she ever call you before you saw her when they both came to pick up Scrappy?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, you can sit down now. Cute. Miss Jones, who paid for Scrappy?
Me and Joshua.
Show me.
Jasmine produces a document.
I have here Zelle and Venmo payments to Joshua. The first one is in February, and then he didn't start asking me for large amounts.
Hold on 1 second. Hold on.
Judy reviews it.
These don't look like anything like payments for the dog. What are those payments? $100, $500, $350 in June. What were those for?
They were all payments towards Scrappy. He started asking me for $200, $350 at
You mean
that
after
time.
you already had the dog?
Yeah.
Because you got the dog.
Yeah, but he didn't pay for him straight up. And his friend told us that we could pay for him at will. He didn't give him money the first day that we picked him up.
Okay, I'll go back to you. How much money did Mr. Caldwell pay on the day he picked up the dog?
$0.
When was the first time he made a payment? Now you could stand up again.
Frederick rises.
He made a payment shortly after, within the first month, of about $300.
So in January, he made first payment
of $300.
And in January, there is no Zelle payment from you at all. When was the next payment? Do you recall?
I believe in March he paid another $200.
Well, do you have records of what you paid, sir?
Yes.
I'd like to see them. I just want to see what you paid and when you paid it. By the way, while he's looking for that, when you lived with Mr. Caldwell, did you both contribute to the rent?
My contribution to the rent was paying for the groceries, so I have all my receipts.
So the answer is you did not pay rent.
That was our deal.
But the answer is you did not pay rent.
No, ma'am.
Did you pay any utilities?
Only when he asked me for extra money to pay his phone bill or to pay for the Wi-Fi sometimes.
And when you paid for these extra things, Wi-Fi or his phone bill, did you pay by cash or did you pay by?
The extra charges in there that I didn't highlight. The ones that are $20, $30, those are for gas. The $70 one is for his card.
Well, I just want to know how you know the payment in July for $200, what it was for.
I was only giving him money at that time. For Scrappy, he started asking me for large amounts of money for him. So that's when I gave him those. He didn't ask me for anything towards bills for that apartment.
Is Scrappy totally paid for?
No.
How much is owed?
$2,300.
So the only amount that was paid so far was $700.
Yes, Your Honor.
Caption, coming up.
This is what happens, because relationships come and go. You know, 50% of the marriages in this country fail. So why would you think a relationship is going to last as long as a French bulldog?
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Jasmine, Joshua, and Frederick.
Jasmine Jones claims her ex-boyfriend, Joshua Caldwell, owes for the costs of a French bulldog. Joshua is countersuing for vandalism and an assault.
Okay, and this is an agreement that I, Joshua Caldwell, have agreed to buy Cashmere.
That was his name originally.
From Frederick Wright. Once the dog's paid in full, I will receive full ownership rights. Frederick Wright will remain the rightful owner of Cashmere until I complete $3,000 in payments, right?
Correct.
And both of you signed this, and this was in January of 2022. That's a reasonable. What are you laughing at?
I'm not laughing. I'm just like, when did he even sign that? Because I was with him the day that we picked him up, and he never showed me any contract.
Well, but this is reasonable because he's not transferring any rights to him. He's going to remain the owner. He's the owner of the dog until the full amount is paid for the dog of $3,000. Right now, he said that the only thing was paid was $700. Go ahead. Now I'll hear you. Now I got it. Now you can sit down.
When I was present for us picking up Scrappy and purchasing him, it was word of mouth contract. There was no paper signing at all. He didn't even show me a paper.
And
he showed me him. He asked me if I liked him. I said yes. And he said he would go half on him with me.
Okay.
And I said, okay. And it was that same day. I get off of work, he picks me up, we go see Scrappy. Didn't know we were gonna get him that day. We ended up getting him that day. He tells me, okay, it's just gonna be $3,500. They walk to the back of the room and start talking and making an agreement. Come back out.
So just a second. So they went in the back of the room. You were not there. That's what you just told me. They went in the back to make an agreement, and then they came out. That's what...
Whitney.
He tells me it's going to be $3,500. They walk to the back of the room, make an agreement.
Right. Go ahead.
And then he comes back and we take Scrappy home. The next day, he texts me early in the morning and tells me that Scrappy might have gotten a bee sting or something because he was limping and he doesn't know what happened. I picked him up from his job that afternoon after I got off of work.
Okay, so you picked up the dog from his work.
Yes, picked him up and I went straight to my mom's house to get clothes because I was going back to his house. And I was examining Scrappy, no swollen paw, no bee sting. Then he said that he probably clipped his nail on the tile, and I'm just like looking at his paw, and I'm like, there's nothing wrong with it, but he's limping. Those were his stories. Still don't know what happened. Scrappy wasn't showing any signs of like pain, he was just limping. So I was like, we need to take him to the vet, like he needs to get checked out.
So you took him to the vet? Okay,
yes.
And?
The vet ended up telling us that he had a fracture.
You can't tell me what the vet told you. I'll look at the records from the vet.
Okay, sorry. I have the vet bills and the reports right here.
Jasmine hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it.
Did you pay any part of these vet bills, sir?
Yes.
Which parts?
I didn't have any record of it because I didn't see it coming. I honestly didn't know what happened to his elbow. Andrew was there as well. We were both kind of like, we don't know. So I found out after going to the vet that Frenchies have a ligament in their elbow, and this happens often.
No one is suggesting that anyone abused the dog.
Okay. Oh,
That's not the suggestion. My question was a simple one. Did you pay any of these vet bills? They're about $1,600.
Yes. I just don't
How much
have
did you pay?
record of it.
What?
He's lying.
I didn't ask you to interrupt. You have to understand, Miss Jones, you can't have this dog. First of all, this dog doesn't belong to either one of you. This dog belongs to him until the dog is paid for. So far, all he's gotten for the dog is $700. $500 of that he paid for. But right now, I can't award ownership of the dog, but there's a contract that until this dog is paid for, the dog belongs to Mr. Wright. First name?
Frederick.
Frederick. You understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Simple. So you have a friend who has Frenchies, then I suggest that you go with your original plan, which is to buy a dog yourself. Now,
the same.
you have no proof that you paid any of these vet bills.
I just have the medicine with my name on it.
Well, the medicine with your name on it doesn't help. $1,600 in vet bills. And you have physical custody of the dog now, right?
Right.
And your agreement with Mr. Wright is that you don't get ownership of that dog until the dog is paid for. Yeah, I mean, I can't enforce your contract with regard to Miss Jones. The dog was not paid for.
I've already offered to pay him for the remainder of whatever Josh hasn't paid him.
The contract is with Mr. Caldwell, not you. So that's what happened when foolish young people decide to own a dog together. And they're not married, they don't even live together. This is what happens, because relationships come and go. You know, 50% of the marriages in this country fail. So why would you think a relationship is going to last as long as a French bulldog? It's sort of ridiculous, and I've advised against it for the last 25 years. Nobody wants to heed this. So I'm faced with a situation where, when did the two of you break up?
I left on September 3rd.
Well, now we're a couple of months, but...
She didn't leave. She had to be, well, this is going to go into the assault charge.
I don't...
But
listen,
she had to be escorted out.
I don't care, whatever. If, I don't care. You want to... Shh. I'll get to the counterclaim in a second. I will give it the same attention as I've given her claim for the dog. She's not getting the dog back. You have to, however, pay her the $1,600 that she paid for the vet. Do you understand? So that part of your petition is granted. Was the bill all paid?
I'm still paying it off currently. We both agreed to apply for care credit together, and whoever...
But it's your bill that you have to pay. If you work in accounting, you have a check, you don't want that garnished, so you have to pay it.
I am paying it.
You have to pay it. Okay. And he's going to reimburse you for that, $1,600. All right, now let's get to this counterclaim and make short shrift of it. Money owed for assault and vandalizing personal belongings. Let's start with the assault. Allegedly, the assault took place when the plaintiff came home intoxicated.
I'm a kickboxer. On September 3rd, she came to my fight, and she dropped me off at home.
That's a lie.
If you say it again, what I'm going to do, if you interrupt Miss Jones, again, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dismiss your claim, and you'll pay for these vet bills yourself. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Go ahead.
She didn't like the people that was at my fight there, and so she had a couple drinks. She got to my house, and she started to fight with me, and I tried to remove myself from the fight, and then she started getting violent. So then I called her family to come pick her up, and they showed up maybe an hour later. In that hour, I tried to remove myself to another room. She went and got scissors and started to cut my shoes up. Then I had to try to grab my shoes and scrap and go into the opposite room, and she came in there and was trying to fight me. All the while all this happening, I'm recording her on video to make sure that I'm...
You have that recording?
Yes.
I'd like to see it.
Caption, coming up.
This would be me asking her just to leave. This whole thing is out of retaliation.
What are you about to do? Why are you hitting me in the face?
Record me? Because I want my dog?
Fighting me. She won't stop fighting me. I've asked her to leave.
Explain that to me.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Jasmine and Joshua.
Jasmine Jones is accusing her ex-boyfriend, Joshua Caldwell, of owing vet bills for a French bulldog. Joshua is countersuing, claiming Jasmine assaulted him.
Okay. You have that recording?
Yes.
I'd like to see it.
This would be me asking her just to leave. This whole thing is out of retaliation.
Why are you hitting me in the face?
my dog?
Fighting me. She won't stop fighting me. I've asked her to leave. Your stuff is in bags.
You're such a... Josh.
Okay. There you go again. There you go again. On camera, hitting me.
Jasmine lunges at the camera.
On camera. You see her hitting me? There you go.
Explain that to me.
I wasn't dropping him off. We were still...
I don't care what you're dropping off. Explain that video to me.
I was pushing the phone out of my face because he had me on live and was saying my full name. He cut off parts of it.
No, I just want to know what happened here. This was clearly you were going after him. I don't know whether you...
I was knocking the phone out of his hand because he was saying my full name, saying I was crazy. I had already packed my stuff. I was leaving. We walk in the house. He calls me a dumb bee, and then goes straight to the bathroom. I'm like, okay, well, I'm just gonna leave. Like, I'm not gonna deal with this. I had Scrappy by my side. I was packing what I could, taking it downstairs. I walk back up. He goes, oh, you're leaving? And he snatches Scrappy and locks him in the bedroom. And then when he goes to open the door is when I barge in. I'm just like, give me my dog so I can leave. And
well, I want to know what the violent stuff was about.
He was recording me, saying my name.
He was recording you.
Saying I was crazy and I wouldn't get out of the house. And I was like, stop recording me. And I was just hitting the phone out of his hand. I never once put my hands on him. He's already hit me and choked me in the past, so I would not go there to provoke him to hurt me again.
Did you ever report to anyone that he hurt you?
I told my mom.
Did you ever report?
No, I didn't.
Mr. Caldwell, were you injured?
I mean, I'm a fighter. I'm not gonna...
Were you injured is my question.
No.
Her family came?
Yeah.
The police were not called. You called her family instead. Did you pick her up? Stand up, please. You're a mother?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And this incident happened on what date when he called you?
It was about 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
On...
Shh. Don't interrupt. On what date?
Labor Day.
Did you go to Mr. Caldwell's home?
Yes, I did.
What time did you get there?
Probably almost 4.
Had Mr. Caldwell ever called you before with regard to picking up your daughter, or that she was... No.
No.
So this was a first?
Yes.
Now, when you got there, I want you to describe what you saw.
She was crying, she was upset, and I told her, come on, let's just go. And she said, no, I want to get my dog. I can't leave my dog here. He's been violent in the past. I've seen it. I told her, don't ever leave him with him again. After a beach incident where he, like, hit him. I mean, he's a kickboxer, like he said. He doesn't hit the dog like a normal person would just tap a dog. No, this was back in July. He was a puppy. He was a baby. And I was so furious when I saw that. He only did it because the dog snapped at him because he was angrily packing him up into a dog carrier.
Would you do me a favor? Would you describe to me your daughter's condition?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Describe to me. You have to understand. Your daughter cannot get the dog. The dog does not belong to the defendant.
Okay.
The dog belongs to Mr. Wright.
What happens to the $1,310 she spent for the dog?
Well,
she sent that money to him.
I have to tell you something. I don't see anything in your daughter's evidence that suggests to me that any payments that she made to him had anything to do with the dog. Anything to do with the dog. Mr. Wright was very clear. He said he received $700 for the dog. There were 2 payments that were identified in his register as payments for Scrappy. There is absolutely nothing in your daughter's register that she gave me of these odd payments of $160 or $70 say Scrappy on it. Not one. So I've already made a determination of where the dog is staying. The dog is staying wherever Mr. Wright wants the dog to stay, because he owns the dog.
Okay.
Understand?
Yes.
So now, that's your daughter's case. I finished that part of the case. What I want to know is he has a counterclaim, and his counterclaim was that your daughter, while in an intoxicated state, assaulted him. Some of that I saw on this video. Some of it you saw on the video. Mr. Caldwell was honest, because it doesn't look as if he was injured as a result of that, and I'm absolutely not discounting the fact that no one should put their hands on somebody else, but an assault requires an injury. And so if this is is that dog sleeping?
No,
that is so funny.
He grunts all the time.
That is so funny. So, Mr. Caldwell, can you show me what damage you allege Miss Jones caused your property? That's the next thing. You said an assault, which never happened because there was no physical injury. Would you mind telling me, please, what property specifically and photographs of that property?
I'll have it.
Okay, so your counterclaim's dismissed. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,600 for the vet bills that she paid or is obligated to pay on her credit.
It's not assault unless I get hurt?
Yes, it's not an assault unless there is an injury.
So if I was
that it's an
drunk, beating
attempt,
her up at her
just a
house?
second, that's an attempted, sir, it's an attempted assault. Do you understand? If an assault has a specific definition, I believe she probably attempted to assault you when she touched you in an unauthorized manner.
She was punching me in the face. That's not a...
Show me picture of any injury. Show me. No, I didn't see that in the video, sir. I saw her lunging towards you. Do you understand? I saw her lunging towards you. I didn't see her hit you. I didn't see a photograph of any injury. I didn't see a police report where you reported any injury.
Report incidents with her being drunk and fighting other men.
Oh, okay. Did you understand what I said? An assault requires injury. An attempted assault does not. And attempted assault is a crime. But it's a crime which I choose, because of the circumstances here, not to consider and not to award you any cash award because you were not injured in any way. So unless you have photographs of the pair of shoes that you say she cut or something else, I'm dismissing your counterclaim. We got it? Good. Okay. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,600. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
Scrappy was not just like a dog or a pet, like he was my support.
I mean, it was fair. Obviously, she had nothing to do with the dog.
It's expected because he lied the entire time that we were together.
And that's a lie.
Him not to have given him any of the money that I put towards Scrappy.
She literally just got all the transactions that we've ever done between each other on Venmo or Zelle and brought that to court.
Now I just think like he was pocketing that money the entire time.
And that's why it was dismissed, because it wasn't valid at all.
Sarah.
So I disagree with you a little bit on the countersuit of the assault charge. I have a more common law. So assault versus battery, as far as I learned, was assault was just the imminent threat of a harm. You're fearing for your life or offensive contact of some sort, whereas battery is the actual offensive touching. There has to be some sort of contact. So if we're ruling by common law, which I know we're not bound by any particular state's jurisdiction, I would have awarded him something for the assault claim.
My training is in New York, and in New York there is no crime of battery. My training was, it's a...
Impound fees, harassment, and defamation.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin approaches the bench.
Case 2142, Brown, Palin versus Mannings.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Palin, this is your former husband.
That is correct, Your Honor.
How long were you married?
18 years.
And this is your daughter?
Correct.
Is this your only child?
With Mr. Manis, it is.
Yes.
Yes.
You have other children?
One other, yes.
How old?
32.
When did you and Mr. Manis separate?
I moved out of the family home in March of 2018.
And this is your boyfriend?
Correct.
I'm going to, in broad strokes, at least try to reconcile both the complaint and the answer in this case. I assume there was a time when your daughter, whose first name is?
Trisha.
Trisha was living with you after the separation.
We had a mutual divorce decree of 50-50.
And was that honored?
Until September 4th of 2020, Mr. Manis had brought Trisha back to my home. And while we were out of the home, he had her pack her belongings.
No, okay. Let's stop there. Trisha, how old are you?
I'm 19, Your Honor.
Right subsequent to the separation and the divorce, until September of 2020, you shared custody.
Correct.
Yes, ma'am.
And then Trisha decided she would prefer to live with her father.
Correct.
For whatever reason. I don't have to go into it, because this doesn't really have to do with who she chose to live with or where she was living. It has to do with a car. Okay. So while she was living with Mr. Manis purchased a car.
Yes, ma'am.
For her use.
Correct.
In what month did you purchase a car for her use? Month and year?
Oh boy, I believe that was probably February of 2019, I believe. 18 or 19.
Well, let's figure it out.
It was about 6 months prior to the case with her. So September 4th, we had the car. It would have been probably June or July of the same year.
So you bought her a car a couple of months before she decided to come and live with you?
Correct.
Okay, I got it.
She had just obtained her driver's license.
That's okay. I'm just trying to get a timetable. Right before she decided to come to live with you and not have 50-50 custody anymore, you purchased a car for her.
Correct.
And she drove that car in June or July, August?
Correct.
At your house?
At both houses.
She was allowed to go to take the car to their house?
Correct.
When she saw her mother?
Yes.
And then bring it back?
Correct.
There was a time when you took the car away from her. When was that?
Probably mid-August.
Mid-August of 2020?
Correct. Well, the threat was to take the car away because her grades were slipping. I didn't actually take the car away.
When did you take it away?
I actually never did take it away. Her mother and her mother's boyfriend decided to purchase her another car to eliminate my threat of taking away the car.
Well, I don't know if that's because, but they decided to
Correct.
purchase another car. And what did you do with the car that you had gotten for your daughter?
I sold that.
When did you sell it?
Probably a month or so after she got the other car.
And the threat was made to your daughter because you were concerned about how she was doing in school or how she was doing socially. What were the reasons?
Well, her grades were slipping. Okay. So I wanted her to concentrate more on her grades rather than...
Grades were slipping?
Correct, at school.
Did she give you any reason for that?
She was under a lot of pressure with the divorce.
So you purchased a car, Mr. Brown and Ms. Palin, with the understanding, according to your complaint, that the car would remain in your name. There would be payments made on the car, and once the car was paid, it would transfer to Tricia. Well, one thing led to another. Things sort of went south. And according to what I've read in these papers, you got sort of annoyed. And the car that you had purchased was in the physical custody of Tricia, who was living with her father, and Mr. Manis caused the car to be towed and impounded, which caused you substantial expense to get the car out of impound. And he did that maliciously.
Correct.
And you want him to pay those expenses because you did, in fact, get the car out of impound, subsequently sold it. How much were the impound fees?
$1,565.22, Your Honor.
Okay. And Mr. Manis, in defense of that, acknowledges that he towed the car, your car. He towed the car, which was at your house?
Your Honor, I had
Where was the car?
The car at the time was at my house.
That's what I'm asking you. The car was at your house. You had it towed to impound. And you had it towed on what date, sir?
The car was impounded on September 4th.
Of what year?
2020, I believe.
And your defense for doing that?
Your Honor, he requested...
Your defense for doing that is that you were merely following Mr. Brown's instructions.
And the police officers.
You were following Mr. Brown's instructions.
Correct.
Yes, you have a police officer here.
I have several police reports, Your Honor.
About what?
This isn't just about the car. There's several years of harassment.
No, I'm dealing with the car.
I understand.
Right now, I'm dealing with the car.
So I have the several officers that came instructed us to get the car removed from the property.
Well, that may be, sir. You can have the car removed from the property and ask the police to have it deposited in front of their house.
I understand.
Yeah, you chose not to do that.
May I show you his request to have the car towed? He offered a reward for the car to be towed.
Just a second. I want you to tell me where I'm wrong so far.
Scott grins and shakes his head. Caption coming up.
See, what we can all do to make her as unhappy as possible. So I really don't understand two people who probably, in their own way, love their child, but hate each other more than they love their child, which, to me, is absolutely bizarre.
Scott shakes his head. A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Curtis, Heather, and Scott.
Curtis Brown and Heather Palin claim Heather's ex-husband, Scott Manis, owes for impound fees. Scott is countersuing Heather for filing a false CPS report.
Okay. You had the car towed to an impound. You did not call him or your ex-wife the day that you had the car towed to impound. It was some period of time later, if the fees for impound were $1,500. Your excuse for that is you were merely following his request. His request. That's what you wrote in your answer. Is that wrong?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, so now we know that you didn't notify them when you had the car towed.
Your Honor.
Because you could have Because you could have had the car towed to the local police precinct and called them and said, come pick up the car. It can't be in front of my house anymore.
Your Honor,
He was actually at my house that night.
Just a second. I didn't ask you anything.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
The police, when they came to our house, the car was present. They acknowledged the presence of the car.
You can't tell me what the police did, sir.
I have the reports, Your Honor.
I'd like to see, I will see the report. What I'm asking you is, there are two things. If you wanted the car out of your custody and you wanted to quietly and stop the friction, send it back to the people who purchased it, you could have done that. You chose not to do that.
Your Honor, the reason I chose not to do that is because of I have several false allegations from CPS, the police. I did not choose to have any contact
You
with
don't
them
have to have any contact with them, sir.
in order to.
You don't have to have any contact with them. Just like you paid a tow truck company to take the car to impound, you pay the tow truck company, you live in a private house or an apartment.
Private house.
You have the tow truck company drop the car off in front of their house. Now, after you had the car towed to an impound company, did you contact them in any way?
No, I didn't.
No.
I was instructed
Did you
not
ask
to
the
by
police to contact them and tell them?
The police knew, yes.
I didn't ask you what the police knew. You can't tell me what the police knew. So you had the car towed on September the 4th. And when were you notified the car was in impound?
I received certified letter on September 26th, which was a Friday. It said to contact them Monday through Friday between 8 and 4.
Just a second. You received that on September 26th.
Yes.
Is that the first notice that you had that the car was impounded?
Correct.
Yeah, that's the
Okay. So now the onus is upon you, Mr. Manis. I want you to prove your defense to me, and your defense was you were following Mr. Brown's instructions.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. That's all I want to see.
Here you go, Your Honor.
Scott hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it.
So this says $100 reward to anyone that impounds my car. Call a tow truck and tell them to contact me.
Yes, Your
You
Honor.
know this number.
Yes.
Yes. Well, did you do that?
The tow company sent them a letter on 9/10 of 2020, and I have the proof of that also, Your Honor.
Yeah, I would like to see what you're looking at. That's not on September 4th.
No.
That's not on September 4th.
9/10, they sent that out,
Okay.
the notice.
Let's see.
Judy reviews another document.
Well, this says that attempts were made on 9/21, 9/26, and 10/5. That's what it looks like, attempts made.
That's when they had attempted to deliver, but they did not pick it up.
So they had no notice.
They had notice.
No,
did
they
not
had
pick
no
up on
notice.
They
They
didn't pick
had
it up.
no notice.
If they would have gone to their post office box, they would have had notice.
If I had taller parents, I would have been 5'7".
Heather grins.
They had no notice. Okay, $1,565. That's what you owe them. It was a malicious act.
Your Honor, this isn't just about the car.
This
There
is
are
all.
horrendous
Listen to me.
False
This is all.
allegations through CPS. If you would please.
Let me. You have a counterclaim.
Yes, ma'am.
And your counterclaim I'm going to hear. Right now, you owe Mr. Brown $1,565 because what you did was malicious. And I don't understand something. You have one child together. I assume that you don't want to make her miserable. That when she was born, you said, oh, let's see what we can do over her lifetime to make her as unhappy as possible. Let's see what we can all do to make her as unhappy as possible. So I really don't understand two people who probably, in their own way, love their child, but hate each other more than they love their child, which to me is absolutely bizarre. So right now, because you did a malicious thing by having their car towed and not giving them a heads up that you had the car towed to a place that was going to cost them money, you owe them $1,565. Now I'm going to hear your claim that they made false charges to CPS about you.
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor,
Oh.
can I say something?
About what?
The car.
Before you say anything, did I say anything that was inaccurate? Did your father have the car towed? The answer is he's acknowledged that. He had the car towed and put it in a place where neither your mother or her boyfriend knew where it was, resulting in their having to pay fines to get the car out. Is there anything that I said was wrong?
That is partially incorrect because I had contacted my mother in the time and asked either.
Okay, that I'll hear. You contacted your mother.
I did contact my mother previously, not only on normal messages, but also on messenger messages, including how I wanted either the title or my money back and that they could have the car before that. Once the Facebook post was...
All I want you to show me is that you notified either your mother or Mr. Brown that the car was impounded when you notified them.
She also did ask my best friend where it was.
All I want, that's all I want. Don't tell me what you said to your best friend who's not here. All I want to do is see where you notified your mother that the car was impounded.
So there is this one about money in my account, which was about the car.
I don't want to see anything about the car. I only want to see where you notified your mother or Mr. Brown that the car was impounded.
Okay. I don't have the text about that, but I did notify her that it was impounded.
Well, I don't know that, and it seems to me you weren't talking to your mother on a regular basis because there was a lot of acrimony. If you have it, you have it. If you don't have it, you don't have it. So, Tricia, you could sit down.
Tricia sits. Caption, coming up.
I'm telling you that it is inappropriate, the act of sharing a bed with a teenage female child as a father would give me cause to pause.
Scott shakes his head. A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Curtis, Heather, and Scott.
Defendant Scott Mattis has accused his ex-wife, Heather Palin, of filing a false report with Child Protective Services.
Now, it was a malicious act to have the car impounded. There's no question in my mind that if they knew it was impounded, they would have gotten it out before. $1,565. Now, you want to show me what information you have with regard to filing a false CPS report?
Correct. I have the CPS reports and the police investigators report.
Okay, may I see it, please?
Scott hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it.
This report, it was in September of 2020.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It's been several years of these reports and
just
disgusting allegations.
Okay. So you filed or you made allegations to Child Protective Services?
CPS actually contacted me, Your Honor, regarding several calls that they had received for the welfare of my daughter, Tricia.
In what year?
I was contacted, I believe it was 2019, and again in 2020.
They contacted you?
Correct.
For what?
To do an interview because of a claim that was made regarding Tricia's safety.
That were made by an anonymous source?
I don't know who made them, Your Honor. In Minnesota, you can't make multiple reports by one person. I cannot call day after day to make reports.
I'm just asking you, did you at some point claim that you had reason to believe that your daughter was being in some way physically abused by her father? That's either a yes or a no.
Yes, to a point.
Yeah, okay. And part of that involved a sexual abuse.
That one was not claimed by me. I did state to CPS that he does have her sleep in his bed with him.
Well, I have to tell you something.
Which is a little weird.
I have to tell you something. That doesn't seem a little weird. It seems a lot weird that your daughter acknowledged, sir.
Your Honor?
Your daughter. What I'm telling you is, it is inappropriate for a man to sleep in the same bed as his 15-year-old daughter.
Your Honor,
that's
we went
my
to a
view.
concert.
And if that's true, there may be a reasonable explanation for it. She said she was scared, whatever, when interviewed. That's what it says in here. But I'm telling you, as a mother and a grandmother, in my view, and I'm not a professional psychiatrist or psychologist, but it is inappropriate for a teenager to sleep in the same bed with her father. Period.
Scott shakes his head.
Maybe some countries it's appropriate, but
Your Honor, we went to a concert.
What?
And shared a hotel room at a...
No, that's not what your daughter said. No. That's not what your daughter said, sir.
May I finish?
Yes.
When she was going through all the stuff with the divorce and everything, she came into my room. I was asleep. She laid next to me. I'm asleep.
Listen to me. I'm not suggesting
Honor,
that anything
inappropriate.
Sir,
absolutely right.
Understand this. I'm not suggesting that any inappropriate actions happen between you and your daughter. I'm telling you that it is inappropriate, the act of sharing a bed with a teenage female child as a father would give me cause to pause. I would say, you know what? That's not a good idea. It's
especially, sweetheart, it's especially not a good idea when parents seem to be feuding. It's grist for the mill. You may want to go and, if she's scared, say, sweetheart, I'll go and sit in a chair in your room.
Many times.
In your room.
Many
but
times.
But please, this is inappropriate. Do you understand? It's inappropriate.
Did you read the detective's statements in there?
No, I'm not interested in the detective statements.
Obviously.
If what your daughter says is true as a result of the investigation, then there was reason for somebody to suggest to CPS to do an investigation. So listen, bottom line, I can't tell the two of you to stop feuding. I can't. You either hate each other more than you love your daughter. That's the answer. And this court can't fix that. All I can do is fix $1,565, which is what you owe them for impound fees. This case is over. Thank you.
Yeah. This court is adjourned.
Outside the courtroom, Scott, then Heather.
I think the judge is wrong.
I am thankful for the judge.
She didn't read all the evidence. Multiple pages weren't read.
He's very good at manipulating others.
Multiple accusations.
And being the person that, oh, pity me, feel sorry for me.
False allegations to CPS.
My ex-husband decided that he would show me.
No, he's trying to get my daughter her money back or the title to her car.
He actually had the car as of August 24th. Then he brought her to the house and moved her out on September 4th. And that's when it just started going downhill.
She has a lot of hatred.
I believe he's very angry that I divorced him.
That she falls off a bridge.
And he lost the control over me that he had while we were married.
Judy and Sarah.
You know, Sarah, I've been doing these family cases for probably 40 plus years. And it always makes me sad that the mother, the father, even the new boyfriend, there is a window in life when you feel relatively healthy, nothing hurts you, you don't have a bad back, you don't have to worry about indigestion, you can walk around without a walker, you look pretty reasonable, and that you will take years away from that good time to create negativity around not only yourself, but the people that you love.
I think that's great advice.
I always said to people, both men and women, that, you know, it's one journey. You can take that journey and put as much positive energy into it.
Yeah, I just felt bad for the daughter. I mean, I know she's grown now, 19, but still 19, it still hurts your feelings to hear and see that your parents hate each other more than they care and love about you.
Well, maybe that statement
will make a difference. You never
will
know.
make a difference, because I'm sure it's not true.
Yeah.
I have a feeling.
But when it's said to you in a court in front of your child, hopefully.
are suing their neighbor, Scott Ellum, for the cost of a baby macaw bird.
Court come to order. All rise.
Judge Judy enters.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin approaches.
Hello, Judge.
Hello, Kevin.
Case 2194, Franchini Nunez versus Ellen.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Nunez,
Yes.
your husband?
Yes, ma'am.
You and Mr. Allen?
Ellum, Your Honor.
Ellum are neighbors.
Yes, ma'am.
And you have backyards that are joined, separated only by a fence.
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of fence?
It looks plastic. I'm not sure.
Who has a picture of the fence?
Scott hands a document to Kevin.
And you each have, as would happen, dogs, same breed.
No, ma'am.
What do you have?
I have a Shetland sheepdog and a Dutch shepherd, ma'am.
And what do you have?
I have shepherd mixes.
How many dogs?
2, Your Honor.
And you have 2?
Yes, ma'am.
This is what the case is about. This is the fence. It's not a chain link fence. It's either a wooden or a plastic fence. And you can see that underneath this fence, there's a board here where I assume there's a hole because the dogs dig holes to get to each other. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, Your Honor.
Fair statement?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. Case is about an incident that occurred. You've been neighbors for a while, and you have had this dog digging also for a while. Also correct?
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
the defendants.
Okay. This incident happened on the 16th of December, 2022. Why don't you tell me what happened?
I got up that morning to let my dogs out.
Both?
One dog. Okay, so the day started out, me and my husband woke up. My husband had to go get a tire fix, so he took my smallest dog, my Shetland sheepdog, with him. I remained home with my 2 children.
Slowly. Okay.
Sorry.
How old are your kids?
They are 6 and 7, ma'am.
Okay.
I remained home with my children because they were ill, and I had an appointment with them later on that day. My husband went to go fix the tire at 8 a.m. I got up in the morning to let my dog out.
Got up in the morning to let your dog out?
Yes.
The shepherd mix?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I let her out, and then she came back in, and I was cleaning, and my 2 children were in my master suite with my macaw, Penelope.
Okay. That's what the case about. This case is about a macaw.
Yes,
the
ma'am.
cost of a macaw.
Yes.
Which is a bird.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
My kids were in the master suite. I opened the door. I'm out there cleaning. I let my dog out of my
And the dog came back.
sliding door. She came back. Well, then she stayed by the door. Now, none of my windows have curtains, so I can...
Just a second. So that, but she stayed by the door, but she was inside?
She came back inside. I shut the door. This was 20 minutes went by. She's by the door. She's crying. I told her we would play later. I assumed she had to go to the restroom again, and I let her out again. She stood on the step, but she didn't go further than that, and she was just kind of staring out. From the left side of the house is where the defendant's dog, Bella, charged in my home. And then when I tried to grab her...
When you say his dog, Bella,
yes,
came into the side and ran into the house, that doesn't... Somehow, if the dog, Bella, came out and your dog was on the step, it would seem to me it would stop on the step at first to sniff, play with your dog if your dog is sitting outside. I mean, I have dogs. Would go over to that dog first, not run into your house.
You would think that, ma'am, but she's been in our house 3 times before this because I had to return her to the defendant on 3 separate occasions. And she didn't do that day. When she came in the backyard on the 3 other instances, I remember the very first time someone from that household came to my door, and I knew the dog was in my backyard, but I didn't open my door. I left her back there. I figured they'd come. They did. And I said, hold on a second. I put my kids, I put my Sheltie in the room with my bird, and I shut the door.
Are we talking about the same date, December?
We're talking about other days that I brought.
Okay, let's not go on tributaries.
Yes, ma'am.
What's your dog's name?
Lucy.
Lucy. So the dog just went straight into your house. And what did Lucy do?
Lucy charged after her and tried to attack her.
Okay, so the dog has been in your house before. Have there been incidents with the 2 dogs?
No, ma'am. The defendant's dog is submissive to my dog. So the only time I brought the dog in my home was when I shut all the doors to all my bedrooms. Someone from the defendant's home came. I opened up the front door, brought her in, and she went straight out because there was nowhere else for her to go.
Okay, so it's your dog that is Lucy is the more aggressive dog.
Lucy's never been aggressive with her. I believe that Lucy was aggressive with her that day because of the way she came in the house.
When you say Lucy was aggressive, what did she do?
She started growling at her, and she started...
In the house?
Yes.
Now they're in the house. Put a period there. We have the 2 dogs in your house.
Yes.
And they are growling at each other. So that's not a happy picture because they're big dogs.
Yes.
Now let's get to the bird. You purchased a macaw.
Yes, ma'am.
You have a photograph of what they look like?
Yes.
When did you purchase the macaw?
I purchased her with payments over time. I completed the purchase at the end of September 30th.
This is the macaw.
Yes, ma'am. That's my
A parrot.
Yes, ma'am.
In December, how old was she?
She was going to be 8 months.
And how much did you pay for her?
I paid $4,320.08 for Penelope.
Okay, can I see the bill?
Absolutely, ma'am. Her birth certificate along
She's
with
beautiful.
all of the...
Pretty bird.
Thank you, ma'am.
Patricia weeps. Caption, coming up.
She bolted in my master suite where my kids were.
Lucy?
No, Bella.
Bella.
Bella did. And I went in there, like, I heard my kids screaming, Bella is killing Penelope.
And later today.
Is there something wrong with your mind?
No.
Did you just say to me, am I crazy? Did he say he owed back child support?
Yes.
To her?
Yes.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Patricia, Giovanni, and Scott.
Patricia Franchini claims her neighbor, Scott Elam, owes for the cost of a baby macaw bird killed by Scott's dog.
Tell me what got you interested in the macaw.
Earlier this year, full disclosure, ma'am, ended up in the hospital very sick for 2 weeks, and I was going through a lot, and I started volunteering at the bird store down by my home, and I really liked the Hans macaw because my grandma had one when she was younger.
Slowly.
Yes, ma'am. And so I spent a lot of time bonding with the birds there, and my husband and I thought it would be good and therapeutic for me, given what I had been going through.
Okay, now the two dogs are in your house, sort of fighting with each other.
They did not fight, ma'am. I did not allow them to.
Growling.
Yes, ma'am.
Growling at each other. And tell me what happened with Bella and the macaw.
I tried to calm Lucy down, and my master door was open. Everything was happening so fast. I know I'm describing it slowly, but it was quick. She bolted in my master suite where my kids were.
Lucy?
No, Bella.
Bella.
Bella did. I heard my kids screaming, Bella is killing Penelope. And
that's the bird?
Yes. And I tried to get to Bella. I couldn't. My dog was standing in between us. And while I was with the two dogs, then my son thought, oh, I'm gonna go get her. And that's when Bella kind of snapped at him and she scratched him. And so then I couldn't get her. I couldn't, she literally was like chewing her up and like dropping her and like biting her again, you know? And it wasn't until my Dutch Shepherd bit her on the nose that she finally let her go, and I swooped in, I grabbed her, I booked it to my pantry in my kitchen with my kids, and Lucy stayed in front of the door, and I have a door on it, and I just stayed in there, and I called my husband, and I was screaming on the phone. He got home maybe, I don't know how long, it probably really only was like 5 or 10 minutes, but it felt like forever. She was like
and
dying
where was
in my
Bella
arms.
during this time?
Bella was around the pantry with the bird in her mouth, and then I took the bird from Bella, and then I put her to the cage, and then Lucy just stayed by the parrot, and then I opened the door and talked to the kids. They were all hysterical, and I was trying to understand what she was saying.
Where was Bella?
Bella was in the kitchen with a parrot.
And how did Bella get back to the defendant?
I walked her over.
How did you do that?
Kind of like how a mother pup grabs her by the neck. I grabbed her by the neck and I walked her over.
Okay, your dog killed their bird in their house. And?
Your Honor, the hole that allowed Bella to get into their backyard was primarily dug by their dog over the course of many, many months.
And?
I continued to repair my side of the fence.
क्या आप भी नॉन फाइलर हैं? तो जरा ये सुन लें, जहाँ पहले 50,000 से ऊपर के अमाउंट पर 0.6% टैक्स की मद में कट जाता था, हमारी गवर्नमेंट ने इससे भी बढ़ाकर 0.9% कर दिया है। नहीं समझे? मैं समझाती हूँ। फॉर एग्जाम्पल, पहले अगर आप 50,001 रुपए की ट्रांजैक्शन करते थे तो 300 रुपए टैक्स देना पड़ता था, मगर अब 450 रुपए देने पड़ेंगे और 1 लाख की ट्रांजैक्शन पर 900 रुपीस। बात यहाँ खत्म नहीं होती, क्योंकि अगर तो आप नॉन फाइलर हैं और आप अपने फोन पर 100 रुपीस का बैलेंस करवाएंगे तो 90 रुपीस टैक्स में कट जाएंगे और आपको मिलेगा सिर्फ 10 रुपए का बैलेंस। दुनिया का सबसे अगली तरीन जूता कौन है? क्रॉक्स, जिसको इंटरनेट पर सर्च कीजिए तो लगभग 6 से 7 हज़ार की कीमत में पड़ता है और लोग क्यों खरीदते हैं? आइए जानते हैं कि इतनी गंदी शक्ल वाले क्रॉक्स ने अपनी सक्सेस कैसे हासिल की। बहुत कम ऐसे ब्रांड्स हैं जो फंक्शनल के साथ एस्पिरेशनल पोजीशनिंग सेट कर पाते हैं और बिजनेस में ये होता है उन ब्रांड्स का स्वीट स्पॉट। 2002 में जब क्रॉक्स लॉन्च हुए तो दे मार्केटेड द शू एज लाइट वेट, ओडो फ्री, जमीन और पानी दोनों में चलने वाला बढ़िया जूता। कंफर्टेबल बहुत था पर टिकने में उतना ही बुरा। शुरू में इनका टारगेट कंफर्ट ही था and people started buying Crocs और इनकी सेल्स ऊपर जाने लगे। बट अगली का ठप्पा ऐसा लगा कि ये टैग इनके ब्रांड से उतर ही नहीं रहा था। अब क्या करें, जूता तो बेचना था। Crocs came up with 2 brilliant strategies. पहली थी Crocs everywhere, जो इन्होंने अचीव की कोलैबोरेशंस करके कि भाई हर जगह देखो ताकि अगली गेट्स नॉर्मलाइज। जस्टिन बीबर से लेकर बिग ब्रांड्स लाइक क्रिस्टोफर केन, बैलेंसियागा के साथ क्रॉक्स ने कोलैबोरेशन कर ली। किड्स को टारगेट करने के लिए KFC, हॉट व्हील्स, डिज्नी जैसे बड़े ब्रांड्स के साथ कोलैबोरेट करके क्रॉक्स लॉन्च कर दिए। फैशन शोज और रैंप वॉक्स में भी क्रॉक्स चलने लगे एंड सून देयर वाज क्रॉक्स एवरीवेयर। दूसरी स्ट्रैटेजी में नाइकी कॉपी करते हुए अगली शूज के भी लिमिटेड एडिशन लॉन्च होना शुरू हो गए, जिसके बाद क्रॉक्स हायर प्राइसेस पर बिकने लगे। सुनने में तो ये भी आता है कि खुद ही eBay से महंगे में खरीद कर बाद में हेवी सी PR करवा के बेचती है। पर जो भी हो, क्रॉक्स की गेम तो चल पड़ी थी एंड कोविड वाज अ ब्लेसिंग इन डिस्गाइज। घर में जूते पहनकर तो किसी ने नहीं बैठना था, तो क्रॉक्स धड़ाधड़ बिकना शुरू हो गए एंड nobody cared about how ugly